Burden to be shafted from the 6th position is not something he would have signed up for and not something he would have wanted. So Galvin has to come in and really buy into what we're trying to do. Well, I think Blues can get the job done. Yeah. Just depending on, the fitness of Haas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for tuning in on another episode. Really great and appreciative of your support thus far. We have a new guest this week, which we're really keen to discuss all things with him in the last month or so. Goose, how are you, bud?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, mate, it's good to have you on. I think we've discussed this for a while about having you on the podcast, and It's been a matter of time since we've got you on, so happy to have you on, mate.
Mate, super excited.
Yeah, he might be a good guest on a regular one for Have a Chat Productions, but he's a new guest for League Chat with the Stat, so we're really grateful to have you here, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Boys, Joe and Ray joining us as well. How are you, lads?
What's happening, Stado?
Mate, not much. How you guys going?
Good, mate. Good. Excited for another episode, man.
Yeah, bro. There's a lot to get through. I'm pretty keen for that. Joe, you must be happy Knights got the win this week.
Finally, bro. Finally.
Yeah, I know, mate. No, your attack's been a bit questionable this year. I still got you for the spoon, but to be honest.
So do I. I finally accepted it.
Yeah. Look, you guys got the win. Dogs got the loss. We got hammered, which was really embarrassing.
So a good week.
Yeah, a good week for some. A good week for many, actually, considering that everyone loves to see our downfall at any point.
Roosters beat a full-side Shark squad.
Yeah, that's huge, bro.
Crazy.
That's a
huge.
big win.
Yeah.
That is a big win for them, man.
Yeah, big win. And we've been talking about the discussions that we've had about the Roosters. You're very keen on saying that they're garbage and they're always rubbish
They're
or whatever.
super hot and cold, aren't they?
Yeah. Very hot and cold. Very hot and cold. But to come out against the Sharks, the way they played was exceptional. Sharks are showing that they're not that good of a side. One week they can beat Melbourne. The next week they can kind of dip in form against teams that they should be beating. You know what I mean? So a bit of a downfall there, but that's okay. It's good to see that the Roosters are doing well. They lost like 8-9 players last year. Lost a lot of experience. I think it's come off the back of Tedesco. He stepped up, considerably. I think this, Hugo Savala kid's done really well. Sandon Smith has stepped up as well at 5'8", which is really good to see. You love to see that. It's just good.
You can see that Hugo is really taking a lot from who's training him at the Roosters? Cronk.
Yeah.
And that is superb. He is doing excellent.
Yeah, he's doing really, really well.
Yeah, and that's why I'm a bit hesitant if we were to sign DCE. What does that mean for him? But that's other news.
Yeah, it is other news. Look, I think the latest talk on that is DCE. He's confirmed that he's wanting to come to the Roosters. He's spoken to Roosters and Dolphins, but he'll most likely go to Roosters. And I've already heard that Sandon Smith will most likely move on to the Cowboys from next year. So I don't know if you knew that or if anyone else knew that. But
that wouldn't be too bad for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad at all. They're trying to work out what they're doing with their halves at the moment.
Yeah.
But look, before we kick off today, just want to let you guys know that we are really excited to have Magic Mind join us as a sponsor for League Chat with the Stat. Really exciting stuff. Only 4 episodes in and we've got a sponsor, which we'll take. So we're really happy with that. But look, Magic Mind, they are a mental performance shot. Subtly sweet, it calls for lower stress, sharper mind, and calm energy. Calm energy is what I'm going to need because let me tell you, I have a lot to get through this episode. And since I've been doing my short form content, which I've just started in the last maybe couple of weeks, I've really needed this to keep me going because let me tell you, mate, I've been revving up my short form content. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I've really started to do a lot more of that. And look, the one time we did it, got 100,000 views. And without that clear, sharp focus of Magic Mind, I wouldn't be able to get that through that. So that's been really cool. On this though, if you're looking to get a discount, Ray, what are the options for those that want to get a discount?
Mate, they have hooked us up once again. Magic Mind is telling us that if you want 40% off, 48% off your first subscription, all you need to do is type in Have a Chat Pod into their discount code, into their checkout, and that's your discount code there. Or if you want 20% off a first-time purchase, you can get that by typing in Have a Chat Pod, HAVEACHAT POD, and you'll get your discount there, man.
Beautiful, man. 48% off that's a crazy discount off that. But you guys, Have a Chat Pod for your also your 20% one off purchase. And go for there. Ready for a sharper mind. Let's get through this episode. Cheers, Goose. Let's down it.
Juicy, what do you reckon of them, man?
Beautiful.
Gorgeous living.
Not bad, huh?
Love to see
Not bad.
Mate, usually I have these shots and there's usually a straight sting in the throat.
Yeah.
This is sweet, goes down nice.
Yeah, subtly sweet, like the bottle mentioned. So it's good. So thank you to everyone at Magic Mind. Much appreciated there. But we have a lot to get through. So much to get through. I'm ready to go. Ray, talk to me.
Stat, I'm so excited to hear your thoughts, mate, because it looks like Lachlan Galvin has made his decision. The young gun playmaker Lachlan Galvin has told people close to him that he's going to be joining the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs for approximately $750,000 a year. Stato, Galvin's made his call.
Mate, he has made his call. And the crazy thing about this to start off with is that it's an immediate move. This isn't a move that will happen at the beginning of 2026. This is a move that's going to be taking place effective immediately. So his first game, ironically, will be against the Parramatta Eels in 2 weeks, the King's birthday clash. Now, I have wrestled with this news for the last couple of weeks. You know, ever since Lachlan Galvin has made kind of his intentions clear that he doesn't want to be at the Tigers. He does want to be at another club and to, you know, kind of progress his career. Like, I knew that there was talk of the Dogs, but there was always Parramatta being the heavy favourites. But in the last, from Tuesday to now, in the last 5 days, that has dramatically changed. Now, it's an immediate move to the Dogs. The Dogs will be paying roughly around the $175,000 amount to get him released from his contract. I believe the Tigers put that stipulation in on Monday or Tuesday, beginning of the week, so that if any club was interested in signing him effective immediately, they'd have to pay about $175,000 to get that to happen. Now, and this is the thing, I don't know why we've signed Galvin, if I'm honest. Do you know what I mean? What are your thoughts, Goose? Because I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now, I don't know why we signed him.
Before we talk about Galvin, can I talk about the Bulldogs for a second?
Yeah.
The Bulldogs have come such a long way in terms of first I want to talk about the Bulldogs, and I want to talk about the number 6 spot. So with the Bulldogs, not only are they doing really well this season, and Gus Gould's done a great job with the club in general and their juniors and all, but there was a time, as many Bulldogs fans will remember, you guys struggled to get players. You guys paid overs to get players. Some worth it, some not so worth it. You look at the likes of Crichton, totally worth it.
Yep.
Kickout's debatable. Other players debatable. You guys went through a period where you struggled to get players. Now you have players taking pay cuts, superstars, and picking the Bulldogs over the likes of Parramatta, even though they're not doing so great, but they are still a big club with big players, and you guys are able to get that signing. Like, that is a massive achievement for your club. And then you look at the other debate of where do you put Galvin? Like, because I know we're going to get into that. I just wanted to mention, you look at everything that's happened last year and this year, it doesn't make sense, but that's where the game, that's the direction of where the game is heading. You look at the likes of Luai, in my opinion, he's doing great as a number 7 at the Tigers. You look at Dylan Brown, he's in the richest contract in NRL to go play number 7 when he's only ever played number 6. And he might have played a few times number 7 in Parramatta. Now you have Galvin. I'm not saying he's going to play number 7, but if he does, like, it doesn't make sense. But that's the direction that a lot of number 6s are heading in NRL, where they go from number 6 to number 7, and it looks like it's working for Luai. So I wanted to bring that up before you speak about Galvin, because the Bulldogs have done a great job in general over the last few years. And now that we know that there are a lot of 6s making that transition to number 7, like even look at Origin, which we'll talk about. Moses is going to be playing number 6 for the first few games. So knowing that, what do you reckon?
So you make a good point. You know, the Dogs had to pay overs to be competitive. And when I look at where we've started from in the beginning to how far we've come, it's been great. You know, I have been very clear on how I felt about Cameron Ciraldo as coach. I've made that very clear, and we're coming first now. So at some point, I think I might have to eat my words on just how well he's built the club up with the support of Phil Gould. But I say this, I truly believe the majority of this comes from Phil Gould. I don't think it's all Ciraldo's doing. Now, how I see it as well is that without Phil Gould, we don't attract a lot of the players that we have signed, and I think we stay near the bottom purely based off the fact that the junior system wouldn't thrive, and there'd be no direction and no leadership in that regard. So we spoke about Parramatta. Now, Jason Riles has a big task at Parramatta and what he's trying to do there, but he needs a support in Phil Gould. He needs someone like that to come in and to just take care of everything else so they can just focus on coaching the footy side. But onto Galvin. Now, see, like you hear the famous term, if it ain't broke, what, like, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And now we're riding first, and we seem to be doing really well. Obviously, we suffered a massive loss on the weekend against the Dolphins. 10, 11 players out, all things considered. Still not good enough, but at the same point, aside from that, and aside from the loss against Brisbane, we've had a pretty great start to the season. You know, we're sitting first, and we're looking comfortable in our skin. You know, and the thing is, the players have all bought into the process of what Seraldo and Gould are trying to build at the club. So for me, it doesn't make sense as to why Galvin would be signed immediately to come to the Dogs to play 6. Because what's that saying about Burton? You know? And you can look at the way that the side has been named for the last 12 weeks, the way they've trained, the way they've played. Everyone's gelling. You know, you don't come first and then seek to buy someone else to add to what you've got. You kind of buy someone to kind of bring depth into the side.
What it's looking like, the Dogs for a long time were trying to develop a squad to be in the finals.
Mm.
Now, I feel like the mentality is to win a championship.
Yep.
Like, they have made the finals. They're doing great. Now they're doing whatever they can to what they believe is going to be enough to win the NRL Premiership this year.
That's
and
right.
That's why I believe they made those big moves to get Galvin in.
Yeah, and for me, you're right. The Dogs have moved into a direction where finals isn't going to cut it. Grand finals is where it's going to be. And when I try to think of where Lachlan Galvin will fit into our side, because look, say what you want, but Galvin's got a massive ego. There are people at the Tigers that can't stand him over the fact he's got this big ego because he knows how good he is. And with Isaac Moses, his player manager, you know, fueling him and getting into his head about just how good he really is, you know, if he comes to the Dogs, which he will be, when he comes to the Dogs, he has to realize that he is buying into the system that we're creating. If he can't do that, I believe that Gould will drop him straight to Cup. Gould and Seraldo will say, mate, you go to Cup until you break your ego down, until you can know how to play proper football and buy into what we're trying to do. And it's going to take time. Now, where do I see Galvin playing? It's hard for me to see him playing as a 6 right now because you're taking Burton's spot. Now, I know that Burton this year, he was out for a few weeks and Hayward came in and absolutely killed it. And there are times where in our attack, where I'll say this, that Hayward looks better than Burton in our attack, right? But where Galvin comes in, it doesn't make sense to me. Because there's talk that, you know, they want to put Burton at fullback. Okay, you can put Burton at fullback, which I don't see it being a great transition, especially mid-season.
Well, can we talk, whichever position we bring up, can we talk about it? So fullback, Connor Tracy's doing a great job.
Great job, yep.
Okay, so what's the other option? Now it's centres.
Yep.
But Crichton and...
Cherry doing a great job.
Doing a great job.
That's right.
So continue. What else do we have?
So the thing is, how we're seeing it at the moment is Burton will have to... It's either Burton or Crichton to move to fullback because there's talk about either one or the other moving to fullback. Now, what that would mean is it would mean that should one of them move to fullback, Galvin go straight into 6, he'll partner Sexton in the halves, and then it'll mean that Cherry, in this case, should Burton be the one moving to centres, or Crichton, either or. Cherry moves in from the centres to the wing, and Montoya drops out of the side. Which, look, I don't mind Montoya dropping out of the side, right? But Cherry... his best position is center. His best position isn't on the wing. And I feel like it's a bit of a waste to shaft into the wing. But it's also a waste to get rid of Tracy and play him in Cup or make him a utility off the bench because we've got Hayward as our utility. We've got Kerman as also a bit of a utility as well. Because, you know, at worst case scenario, you can chuck him in the halves. He can play lock. He can play second row. So it doesn't make sense as to which player misses out from the side. I find it like it's really unlucky, to be honest.
I'm on board with you. I think if a player was to miss a side, it'll be Montoya.
Yep.
So you'd put Burton in the centres so in Cherry's position, you move Cherry to the wing. That makes the most sense in my head.
Yeah.
Because if I was to sacrifice Burton, Connor Tracy, or Montoya, I would sacrifice Montoya.
I'd sacrifice Montoya. And he's shown that in his form this year. While they've signed him to be a hard worker, he's got very, very bad defensive reads. He's become a defensive liability. So, and I know that the players will adjust, but for me, and I just get this gut feeling that players will request releases. That's how I see it. Like I just see it coming down that road. I don't see how they can all be satisfied. Burton to be shafted from the 6th position is not something he would have signed up for and not something he would have wanted. If he really abides that team first mentality and he's really going to buy into that, then that's huge. That's great for the club. And that's great for what we're trying to do. But the likeliness of that happening, I don't see him being comfortable with moving from where he is to the centres. I'm not comfortable I'm not seeing Tracy being comfortable, but being shafted from his fullback position to be either on the bench or playing cup.
Well, surely these players will see how well they're doing and be like, at least for the rest of the season, see how it goes. Because why would a player, I mean, I know why they would, but wouldn't they bite their tongue just for the rest of the season, considering how well the Bulldogs are doing? Like, that's 2 losses so far. And they're 2 losses. I mean, I don't know much about the Broncos. You guys were missing players, right?
No, we had a pretty good squad there, and we just got trampled on.
All right. Well, let's just say that's one bad game. Or both games were in the wet. But this week's game, you guys were missing players. You guys had injuries. Like, you can let it.
See, I was comfortable with us losing. So on that note, I was comfortable with us losing this week. But to get 40 put on us, and especially with what we've built in our defense, that we've infiltrated through the junior systems, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But moving back onto the Galvin topic, I can't see Galvin lasting his whole career being a 6. I believe he becomes a ball playing 13 at some point. That's the direction I see him heading. So if but this is the thing, because we've got to talk about the now, right? We want to talk about how it's going to look. So in 2 weeks' time, the Dogs will name their team list against Parramatta. They're going to shift heaven and earth to put Galvin in that side.
I was going to say, what makes you think he's going to be a 13? Because when I think of 13s, I don't think of a scrawny number 6. I think of like a big, solid unit.
They'll build him up. He's very scrawny and skinny at the moment, which is why I don't believe it would be an immediate move to 13. But over time, they'll get him to put on size, and he'll make that transition as a ball-playing lock. If you look at all the locks that are currently in our game, the majority of them are ball-playing locks. So that's how I see it going. I can't see him being a 6 forever.
Yeah.
I think they've put too much effort into Burden being that 6.
Yeah.
That was the whole reason that they signed him for and gave him a massive contract extension to be our future 6.
Yeah.
But for me, if you're looking at the immediate future, Toby Sexton is on the outer. He won't be re-signed by the club. He will either go to Raiders or go to Gold Coast, 2 clubs that need a 7.
And
so
that'll most likely be end of the season?
Yeah. So unless Sexton is absolutely fed up and says, I want to be released now and I want an immediate move, it depends which club can accommodate him to take him on early. Yeah. Or he could go Super League. Well, like that could be another option. But for me, fitting 2 6s into the halves doesn't work. If you look at Gold Coast Titans, they've got Jaden Campbell and they've got AJ Brimson.
2 6s.
2 6s.
Yeah.
How are the Gold Coast going this year? They're coming second last.
Yeah.
The only club it's ever worked for was Melbourne Storm, where they transitioned. But what they did is they transitioned Jerome Hughes from a fullback, and they've got him from Gold Coast, to a half. And they've made him, and he's become a unique number 7 in that regard.
Yeah.
Now, you spoke earlier about how you're getting a lot of 6s transition to becoming 7s, which is a very good point. Like you gave the example of Jerome Luai. But from what I've seen so far of Galvin, it doesn't make sense. I can't see that happening. If you look at Jerome Luai, there were games where last year where Cleary was out, where he played 7 and he actually looked really comfortable and he looked really good. So for me, it was like, okay, if he makes the transition over from to the Tigers, which he did, it'll take a couple of years before he adapts himself as a really good 7. Because you can't just walk in and become a 7 overnight. It didn't take Jerome Hughes that quick switch overnight. So for me, for the immediate future, I would see a halves pairing of Lachlan Galvin and Toby Sexton as 6 and 7. And they're going to suss out what they're going to do with Burden, which I think would be fullback or centers. I just really feel bad for Tracy, who's actually been unbelievable for us this year. And for a team that's coming first, why make those necessary changes? Now, you asked as well. Oh, sorry, before I get to you. You said before, how would the players feel? Do you reckon they'll buy in and sacrifice? I don't think so.
That's a bit cool.
I don't think so. For me, it's hard.
Number 1. And you're very comfortable.
You're coming first. Everyone's playing their part really well. Why change something? If it ain't broke, why fix it? If everybody don't fix it, sorry.
It's like the point I brought up before. They're doing moves to win the finals this year. So the question is, do you think this is the right move? Do you think this will put you guys in the picture of not making the top 4 or not making the grand final, but actually winning the comp?
To be honest, I don't know if we'll win the comp this year.
Compared to if you didn't bring him in.
Either way, I don't think we're going to win the comp this year, which is a big call, which probably a lot of fans are thinking we are going to win the comp. But I think we lack a superstar, which is crazy because our team, we've bought a bunch of utilities and they've made them really good. But I think we're just lacking that extra shift that the Dogs need in the finals because every team in the finals step up. Melbourne, look, Penrith most likely are not making the finals this year. They're currently sitting last, so I can't really use Penrith, but we'll say Penrith. The likes of Melbourne and Penrith go to a different gear in the finals. I don't believe Dogs have that next instinct in them to go up another gear, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but Lachlan Galvin coming in, it's up to Lachlan Galvin of how much he wants to buy into what we're trying to do. Now, the reason he made the move over, clearly it wasn't about the money. He sacrificed $1.1 million a year to go from that figure to $750,000 a year is because he's been talked into his ear about getting out of the West Tigers and their system and, you know, for whatever reasons. For me, Galvin has to buy into what we're doing. He's got a massive ego at the moment. Like I said, he's got people like Isaac Moses and all these reports and all these reporters and legends of the game and superstars feeding into his ego that he's got this big head that he carries around training, that he's Mr. All That. That's why him and Luai don't really get along. You know what I mean? So Galvin has to come in and really buy into what we're trying to do. If he's on, which I know, and I can understand it's going to take some time defensively because he's coming to a brand new defensive system and we work hard in defense, bro. The Dogs have built their game on defense. You know what I mean? So he has to come in and really buy into that. He's got to drop his ego. And I've got no problem with Serrado and Gus going in and saying, mate, until you get your ego in check, there's no egos here, you can go Black Cup. It's on Galvin. It's on Galvin to really buy in. And he's come to the Dogs because he believes he can develop his game well under Serrado and Gus. But also Luke Vella, who coached him at Westfield or Endeavour, whichever school he went to growing up, coached him when they won tournaments when he was younger. So he's got that really close bond with him. So, but the thing is, what he has to realize is it's not up to Luke Vella what happens with Galvin. He's an assistant coach. Serrado makes the call at the end of the day. Gus makes the call at the end of the day. Well, I can understand that there's a relationship there. That doesn't really buy into Galvin. Like, if he is not in form and they drop him, they drop him. It is what it is.
Galvin at the Tigers butted heads with Taruva and Luai.
Yep.
And they're from Penrith and they're big on buying in, and brotherhood. And now you have, at the Dogs, you have the likes of Kickow and Crichton and Burden. And I'm missing a few other Penrith players that have that same mentality and have went through the same system that the others gone. I wonder how that's going to look like.
And that's the thing. That's what I'm concerned about. Because Galvin, in the time that he's been at the Tigers in the top grade, but especially this year, has shown in his footy that he doesn't really care. He's shown that in his footy. He's shown that in a lot of the defensive lapses that he's caused in his game. He's not happy. He wants to get out. Now, surely it means that when he comes to the Dogs or he goes to any other club that, you know, he'd prefer to go to, in this case, the Bulldogs, he'd bring a different mentality. He'd come in like, you know what, I want to buy into what they're trying to do, and I want to buy in, and I'm going to give everything I got, and I got to drop my ego. But he's 19 as well. You know, bit immature, bit young, bit dumb. You know, so there's so much in this that, you know, you kind of just figure out what's going to happen. But for the immediate future, Dogs are going to move heaven and earth to get him into that side against Parramatta. They're going to make him at 6. They're going to put him there at 6.
$750, I think it's a risk you guys are willing to take. I think it's a good risk. I think the only risk that might be questionable is what happens to the young half that you were talking, or the young number 6 you're talking about, the one that took over Burden.
Bailey Hayward.
Yeah, that he did great. What's going to happen to him? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Like, he's a good talent. Yeah,
so the talk at the moment, a report came out today. I was reading. Apparently, the Dogs are really unhappy with Reid Marnie in terms of his ill discipline. So what they're looking to do is once we get a full squad back together, they're going to start transitioning Hayward to becoming a hooker.
Oh, okay.
So he'd move from 6 to 13 to 9. So the talk there is that Marnie, especially in the game on Thursday night, he gave away too many penalties, very ill discipline. They're getting frustrated with him. On top of that, he's on $675K a year, close to $700,000 a year.
How many years left on his contract?
He's off contract end of next year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And the thing is, and on that though, the Dogs have to sort out the salary cap because he's on $675 a year till end of next year. Kickout's on $800 a year. Curran's off contract. Tracy's off contract. Jack Todd's off contract.
Crichton's on what, $800 a year?
8, but he's got another 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, and we've signed, and on top of that, we've signed. So like Galvin's on $770 or $750 a year from next year. We've also signed Luke Thompson at $825 a year.
Yeah.
Leo Thompson, he's coming from the Knights.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got Finau Latu, who's a young kid coming through the ranks. We offered cheap as well. So the Dogs, like you were saying earlier, the Dogs have become a club where people actually want to play in, right? Because Finau Latu knocked back more money at the Knights and the Dragons to sign with the Dogs. And Galvin knocked back money from the Tigers and Parramatta, who Parramatta, by the way, over the course of the weekend, upped their offer to $850 a year to really persuade him to come. But for him, it wasn't ever about the money.
And Para have a number 6 spot waiting for them.
Yeah, it's literally his. Yeah, it's literally his. And I've been saying from the beginning, why would Galvin want to leave the Tigers, take jabs at Benji about his coaching style, and take jabs at where they're going in terms of a club to go to Parramatta, who's got a rookie coach, been there 1 year of the next 3 or 4 years. The coach was a prop, can't really help him develop his game as much. Sure, he can learn off, Moses. He can do well there. But how's he going to develop his game? How can he take him to the next level? How's he going to win a comp? Parramatta are not in their window. They've lost that. If you look at how they're going this year, they haven't been playing Ryan Madison. Sean Lane is on indefinite break, might potentially retire. They got rid of Gutho before the year started. They got rid of RCG before the year started. So they're in a rebuilding phase. They're trying to depend on the kids that are coming through that they can get as part of the junior development to come in and buy into what they're trying to do. So for Galvin to knock that back and more money, to knock back an instant 6 jersey just there for him, it kind of speaks volumes to a degree of where Parramatta are at the moment. But for him to leave Tigers, to knock back 1.1 million a year, like you talk about the Tigers for a sec, right? They've done a lot this year to change the culture and to like I said, with Turuva and Luai, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, like a couple of these signings that have come through to really buy into what they're trying to do and make a change for the Tigers. Because since they won the comp in 2005, they've been absolutely disgusting, right? But in their time, the Tigers have lost some great players. Tedesco, Pappenhausen, Moses, Woods. Yeah. You know what I mean? They can't hold their players. No matter what they're trying to do, no matter how good they're going, no matter which direction they take, they can't seem to keep their players intact. They're juniors, they're great juniors. They can't seem to keep them intact.
I was going to say, what does that say about the Tigers? Because I mean, I understand they lost, 50 or 60 nil to Melbourne, but they're doing great. They're doing so much better.
Yeah.
I'm loving what I'm seeing from Luai. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the other players, but they can't get I guess the question I want to ask you is, does that say more about the Tigers and their system, their culture, or does that say more about Galvin's ego?
It's a good question. I think it's both. Yeah. I think to knock back 1.1 million, firstly, as a 19-year-old, that's mental. Earning that kind of money when you're that young is insane.
And once you're taxed, you're probably looking at what you're receiving at the Dogs before tax.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's
huge money.
Yeah,
it's huge money.
At least 300 grand.
Yeah,
at least.
So he's knocking back a lot of money at 19-year-old. For him to say no, initially everyone's like, "Oh, it's about the money. He's going to get more money at Para or at Dogs." Not necessarily. He's signing for $750 a year. It talks of Galvin's ego, but it also talks of Isaac Moses and his family getting into his ear about where the club's at and all these people that are in his ear about how they're going. If he just rode the wave and stayed patient and bonded with Luai and bonded with the players that they've brought in, it could be a whole different scenario.
I know we're not here to talk about Isaac Moses, but with everything that's happened with him in the past, how are still players signing with him? Because he's getting deals done?
He gets deals done, and he's very... Him in the business that he's got, they've had the likes of Cameron Smith in the past, Michael Jennings. They've got about 7 Seagulls currently signed, including their coach Seabold.
Oh,
they've got massive rapport in the game,
massive portfolio,
massive portfolio. So that's why they continue to go through him, and he focuses on younger talent and brings them through, and then gets him in and then gets them out of their clubs. Like really, Galvin, ideally, I actually thought was initially when all these talks was happening, I thought he was going to go to the Roosters. But Nick Politis can't stand Isaac Moses.
Yep.
Can't stand that. And Politis won't have any contact of any player of Isaac Moses come to his club because
he's been burnt in the past.
He's been burnt in the past, and Isaac Moses is known to be a bit of an idiot.
Yeah.
Sorry for saying, but that's the reality. The proof's in the pudding. He's been deregistered before.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not saying that. His record
shows it. That's right. So that's what it says. So of the Tigers, so it's a bit of both of the Tigers system that they didn't want to trust the process and what Benji was trying to build, and also a bit of Galvin's ego because of how much people have been feeding him crap along the way. Yeah. So that's where I stand on that. So what does it mean for Parramatta, right? So Parramatta now have they have got a lot of money in their cap, and they're going to be competing with the likes of the Bears and Papua New Guinea to try attract big sixes to come to their club.
Does any sixes come to mind that are off contract coming up?
To be honest...
Too soon.
No, I mean... for me, that comes up to mind is Sandon Smith, I spoke about earlier. He's been linked to go to the Cowboys. Cowboys are pretty keen on getting him. If I was Parramatta, I'd give a shout out to Sandon Smith. Yeah. I think he's done pretty well given the circumstances.
400-500.
Yeah. They don't have to pay him anything crazy.
Yeah.
But you can get him in there and then he can do a job with Moses and then you can build on that combination.
It's sort of like what the Dogs did with Sexton. Like they needed the half. There wasn't anything there. They brought him in and he done a good job.
Yeah. And that's right. And now, like Sandon Smith could benefit at a club like Parramatta. I think he could. I think he'll go. He'll play well with Mitch Moses. He'll get him in. They'll link up with the spine they've got now with O'Reilly Smith and Isaac and Iongi. I think they can like gel together. I think they'll do a pretty good job. So that's an option. Like I said, Sanders-Smith could go to Cowboys. But there's another kid in the Dragons junior ranks, Jonah Glover, who Tigers are after. I think he's more of a 7, to be honest. He's more of a halfback. So I don't know if Parramatta would be interested in going down that route because they've got Moses at halfback.
Maybe Raiders might look into him. They're losing Fogarty, but they got someone coming up, don't they?
Yeah, they bought Ethan Sanders from Parramatta.
Oh yeah.
And they're banking on him to be, to carry Raiders for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So him and Stewart that they've got there.
Because the talk is there is a very low quality of good halves currently in the NRL.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, Fogarty was a great deal, but Manly, what other option did they have? Fogarty was a great deal. They got him at, what, 700 a year?
Yeah, 700K a year, 3-year deal. It's amazing. And this is why I kind of feel, on that topic though, but this is why I feel bad for Sexton. Because I've always said, look, Sexton isn't our long-term halfback. I think I would have put him in there for another couple of years until Mitch Woods transitioned into, like, one of our younger kids, Mitch Woods, would have transitioned it to get into a spot where he's ready, and then Woods will take over him and be our halfback for the foreseeable future. That's how I see it, right?
Yeah.
But Bulldogs knocked back Ben Hunt. When they wanted to sign him, they go, no, we're going to bank on Sexton. We're going to bank on Sexton. We're going to bank on Sexton. They didn't even approach DCE, which, if we wanted to win the comp, I would have signed DCE in a heartbeat. I didn't care what people's opinions are of him.
DCE
he is
Fogarty,
excellent. Right? And then Fogarty came up, and we didn't even have the audacity to have a conversation with him. And mainly got him for a bargain. So that's the part that does my head in. Why are the Dogs looking at 2 6s to come in and run the team? It's never worked.
Well, like I mentioned before, there's not many 7s out there, but now you have a few 6s transitioning to 7. So,
and the thing is, are they cut out enough to do it? But the thing is with Galvin, he's never played 7 to show whether he's got the potential to go there or not.
Luai has.
Luai has.
And Brown has, but it doesn't look great.
Doesn't look great. Yeah. Brown has, and it doesn't look great. So Newcastle will get Brown. Whether he plays 5'8" there, he plays halfback there, that remains to be seen. But Parramatta can go to their war chest now. They've still got, Ronnie Volkman, who's playing, Dean Hawkins in their junior system. Whether they're going to bank on them to be a full-time 6 to partner Moses is still kind of unclear.
Has Joash probably ever played 6, or he's fullback his whole career?
No, he's been a fullback his whole career, from my understanding, and I wish the Dogs didn't let him go. But that's again, they wanted to make him a hooker, and he was like, "No, I'm leaving." But he's done really well. So I think Eagles would have to probably go to market. I don't know, but they've got these kids that are coming through that they've re-signed till end of next year and the year after. So I think they're going to try bank on them. But the majority of 6s are signed, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So what that looks like for Parramatta, look, maybe even Dylan Walker will go into 6 if they can't find anyone. So he's coming in as an immediate signing, and he's been phenomenal for Parramatta.
Great, yeah.
He's really changed how
he's
they
done
play.
His job, right?
Yeah, and done it really
utility,
well.
Yeah.
The way he comes in and the way he makes Dylan Brown seamless in his game. No one's talking about Dylan Brown anymore.
Yeah.
Walker's come in and has taken the pressure off Brown and has carried more responsibility to help Moses out and to help Brown.
Because Brown's checked out, eh?
I won't say he's checked out, but when there's so much pressure on you to deliver and you become the sole focus of the team, I don't believe Brown's checked out. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think he's checked out.
He's still invested with Parramatta?
I think he's invested for the year, yeah. If he checked out, Royal should drop him.
Yep.
So that's how I see it. But look, to kind of, and it's another thing. So Phil Gould. So people have been going on and been going crazy about Phil Gould saying, Phil Gould went on 100% footy, said he was never interested. He never said that.
No, he didn't.
So to clarify and to give context, when all this talk a few months ago came out about Galvin, Phil Gould has been talking about how good Galvin is. He's like, he can be one of the best things to happen to any club.
You think he'll be the richest player in NRL?
Yeah, he's his potential is untapped. Like Phil Gould's a massive fan of Galvin.
Yeah.
When he was asked whether the Dogs would make an approach, he said, "We're going to trust in our systems," which wasn't a lie.
Yeah.
The reason this has all changed, and the reason everyone's coming out Gould and calling him a hypocrite and a two-face and a liar and all that, which is not the case.
No, it's not.
What's happened is Gould came out this afternoon and he said, "I never said I wasn't interested, but Galvin, should Tigers have gone and released him at the end of his contract, which was the end of 2026, the Dogs would have spoken to him for 2027. I have no doubt about that. And I think Gould was leaning towards November 1. They were going to approach Galvin and talk to him about signing him for 2027.
Yeah.
But what's happened is, after the board meeting the Tigers had on Monday or Tuesday, Isaac Moses called up Phil Gould, which Phil Gould has confirmed, and said, hey, we can get Galvin looking at an immediate release. Would you be interested? While trusting the process, he's like, you know what? Yeah, well, if he comes out and he's an immediate sort of acquisition, yeah, we'd love to have a conversation with him. Once it was confirmed and they put a fee on him, then they had their meetings and they spoke about everything. And then Gould's like, yeah, bring him on board. He never at one point said, I don't want Lachlan Galvin. He said in 3 or 4 years, he could become an amazing player for whichever club picks him up.
Yeah.
He never said, I don't want Lachlan Galvin.
But I love how NRL 360 and Brayford Nesta picked up on it so quickly because they realised, okay, Para haven't announced anything, and Bulldogs, they like Fugal came out and said we haven't done anything with Sexton.
That's right.
And then I don't know how they did. They put the 2 and 2 together, and then it blew up. And then the next day, usually the Dogs come out and they talk about it, whether they say it's true or not true. Nothing.
And that's the thing. And Gould, even when they approached Sexton about, like when they're talking about Sexton, he's like, oh, you know, we have faith in his game. He's developing really well, and we're just going to have to see what happens. Without confirming that they were going to re-sign him. Because it seemed like in the back of his mind, he was always going to let Sexton go.
Yeah.
And there was always a chance of him getting Galvin. So we can debate whether he had information prior, where he knew, he didn't know. That's all up in the air. But Gould came out and said, I am not. He didn't say, I'm not interested in Galvin. He said, right now, we've got to trust our processes. But what's happened is that it's fast-forwarded 18 months. Or his plan to get Galvin has fast-forwarded 18 months. He's like, okay, well, hang on a sec. If I can get him immediately and he can make an impact into our side, why wouldn't I look at it?
Why do you think the Tigers didn't drop Galvin for the rest of his contract? Do you think the lawsuit had anything to do with it? Because a club could get petty. A club could get petty and say, no, we have the right to ruin your career and let you play the next remaining 16 months, whatever, in cup.
Which I said in the last podcast or the podcast before that, I think that would have been the case. Look, I think the lawsuit probably had something to do with it. And I think part of this deal was that they dropped the lawsuit because Galvin was complaining about workplace bullying. So I think it had a little part to play, but also, and to give credit where credit's due, they didn't play Galvin one week and Tigers lost. Where Galvin would have been the difference in that game. I believe he would have been the difference in that game. Because they put Dwayne in the halves and he had an absolute shocker of a game. And he did not look good at all. So I think that had something to do with it, to be honest. But as part of this deal, they dropped the lawsuit.
Yeah. Because now they're getting rid of him immediately, not end of the season, not after his contract. So now Tigers go back to the drawing board. And do they put Dwayne back in the halves? Do they bring up a junior?
Well, they've got Latu Fainu that they signed for Manly that they're really hoping him to immediately. Well, he's already there. He's just got a broken thumb at the moment. So there's rumors he could be playing. Like if Galvin gets released this week, he'll be there next week to play in the starting 6 jersey with Luai. Okay. So they've got plans there already.
Planned it out.
They've planned it out, and they're looking. And Benji Marshall believes in Latu Fainu and Jerome Luai to be the full-time halves going forward.
Okay.
So look, I think the lawsuit would have had something to do with it.
It would have.
Yeah, I think it would have played. But I think Tigers have to they've said to Galvin, you want to leave early, you drop the lawsuit. There's
so he probably had something there.
Probably, but I don't think he would have had enough there to make it workplace bullying a proper.
You need a lot of evidence.
You need a lot of evidence.
Yeah,
man. And I think it'll be too ugly to drag it through. Through the courts and everything else, if it was to get that far. I think it's way too ugly, and Galvin is too young, and I don't think him and his family would have that financial support to go through the court process because he's not on amazing money at the moment. He's on $200,000-300K. So he's not on amazing money at the moment. Yeah. If he had signed that $1 million deal, whatever, okay, there's a potential chance through the big salary, he could obviously pay all that stuff off, but that seems to be believed. But look, to kind of close up on this topic, because we've spoken about it for a while, how it's going to look immediately with the Dogs, I don't know how it's going to work 3 players playing in 2 positions.
Yeah. But
it does confirm to me that Sexton will move on at the end of the season, if not possibly immediately. And I personally believe players will cause an uproar and probably ask for releases. So
I say if players don't leave, they don't cause an uproar. And if Sexton doesn't leave, and if I believe the best bet is probably move on Montoya and shuffle in Galvin, like we spoke about.
Yeah.
If that clicks, because sometimes it doesn't click.
Yeah.
If that clicks, I reckon it will improve the Dogs team.
Yeah, it will. And I just wish we put that money into a proper 7. I wish we didn't waste the money that we put on Galvin into I wish we put into a DCE or a Fogarty. Fogarty for 3 years. Oh my goodness. He would have been so good for us.
That's such a good do at Manly.
It frustrates me. But look, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on because I've gotten it out of my system.
Yeah.
And look, on that I hope to be proven wrong. Anyway, officially done. All right. State of Origin.
Yeah.
Coming up this Wednesday.
The teams. Yeah.
So let's get the teams up. Now, in relation to State of Origin, obviously the Blues, there's a couple of injury concerns in the team.
Which are Payne Haas. Is Crichton no longer?
Crichton's good.
Okay.
He'll be playing.
Yeah.
But Laurie Daly's come out today and said that he will give Payne Haas some decent time before they go ahead and rule him out, which will give Stefano Utoikamanu his spot.
Okay. That's
Excuse me?
Because he's number 19.
Yeah, he'll be jersey 19.
Yep.
Now, we'll talk about the side. So, obviously, when we talk of the backs, we can look at the back five. So, I'll pull it up here. So, the back five of fullback is Dylan Edwards.
Yep.
The wingers, To'o and Lomax, and the centers, Crichton and Latrell. Of the backs, I can't complain.
Can't complain. Like, we can talk to the cows come home about possibly Teddy being there, but you know what? Edwards is good. So
Edwards is good. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the back five they've got. And I think Crichton and Latrell is a lethal center combination.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that Tom Dvorak is not in this side. Really happy. Based off form, he's not there. And he's not healthy and showing at Manly. He's gone. He's not where he needs to be at the moment.
No.
And having meter eaters in To'o and Lomax, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. If Lomax was gone, I would have had Kiraz in there in my personal lineup.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Is Kiraz fighting injury or is he good?
He's tore his calf now. He's out for a month. Yeah. So that kind of also resolved itself when Lomax came back for Parrott and killed it. So I can't compare with the back five.
Yeah.
The halves. Moses Cleary. Now, there's talk about whether they can get it to work, but they've also both got egos. Because they're both very good at 7.
Yeah.
Do you see it working out? Do you see them two getting along and being able to work it out?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
I've been a big believer over the years that Luai is only good because of Cleary.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, no, he's good.
Yeah, he's good.
Really good.
That's right.
And I would have loved him there. In fact, unpopular opinion, I would have loved him and Moses. But you know what? Cleary's good. I just don't think he's as good in Origin as he is in Penrith.
That's right.
But that's okay. I think this can work. Like, they're both really good. They both have egos, but they're both really good. They're both big-time players.
Yeah.
They're both clutch players. They're both leaders. Like, hopefully, like, this is hot or cold. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
This will either be excellent or it'll be terrible.
Yeah. And on that point, I agree with you. I was actually banking on a Luai-Moses combination like last year.
Yeah.
But with a player of Cleary's caliber, you can't keep him out of the side. He has to be a straight walk-in. So, but what I want to see from Cleary this year is I want to see him step up in Origin. Yeah. He's done it for Penrith. He's done it for Australia. I want to see him take over the Origin arena.
Yeah, I haven't.
That's
seen
where
it
he
yet.
needs to.
Yeah,
him and Haas. I'll get to Haas in a sec, but them two. But I agree with you. I think they can get it done. They're both professional enough. Yeah. They're both extremely experienced. They're both very good. They can put their egos aside, and they can put. And they've made it clear that Cleary's a dominant man in Origin for this game. So Moses will need to bite that bullet a little bit. But I think Moses will be huge for Cleary, and Cleary will be huge for Moses. I think it's a genuine benefit for both players.
Because I cannot explain how amazing Moses was last year.
Yeah, incredible.
I did not think he'd be that good. He was so good.
Yeah, that's right.
And I hope Cleary can just, like, they gel together. I hope so.
Yeah, I think they'll do okay. So I like the house pairing for what they are. Genuinely, I think it'll go well. We move on to the forward pack.
Yeah.
Of Barnett, Robson, and Haas. See, I look at Barnett as more of an impact player. You know, when I look at the side that's been named, firstly, actually, I'll get to that later about Tuame, which I'm very, very, very frustrated about. We've got to look at the side for what it is, right?
Yeah.
We've got Max King that's on the bench. I would put Max King starting because if I want that impact to come off the bench, it needs to be big impact. I don't believe, as much as I'm a supporter of Max King and as much as I love him and what he's done for the Dogs and how he's turned his career around, which has been exceptional, he's not an impapt player. He needs to be starting. For me, I think it's the wrong call that Barnett's starting. And I hope Daly wakes up to himself and realizes, but King should be starting.
I agree. I reckon it either should have been King or May starting.
Yep.
I personally believe that. I love Barnett. He's a great player. There's King and there's May. And I reckon May should have been there. But
yeah, 100%. We'll get to that in a sec. But Barnett, in this side that's named, Barnett has to be coming off the bench. He provides better impact than King would. That's my opinion.
I can't complain too much about that.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good player.
Yeah, and I can't complain that Reece Robson's there.
Like, you can say Coruscant, you can say even who's the hooker for Sharks? Brayley.
Like Brayley.
But Reece Robinson's been there, he's done it, he's good.
Yeah, he's fine. He'll do a job for us. And I think there was even talk they wanted Wade Egan there from Warriors to be there. But I'm like off the pay, he's a bit lower in terms of the pecking order.
Yeah,
so for me, I wouldn't have considered.
It's a similar conversation with Dylan Edwards. Yeah, there's Puppy, there's Tedesco, but he does a good job. He's done it last year. He's doing all right. Like just leave him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if we move to the back row, Martin, Crichton, Yo, perfect.
Yep, no problem.
No problems there.
Yep.
I'd probably put in the argument that we could start Hudson Young.
Yes.
Start Hudson Young there for Martin, and Martin can come off the bench and make a massive fat impact.
Because he's done that before.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't hate that, but I'm happy with what I'm seeing there.
Yep.
I don't mind it at all. Connor Watson is a utility.
Amazing.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's an absolute no-brainer. When Laurie Daly was talking about how he wanted Pappenhausen as a utility, absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Your utility needs to cover its utility, the multiple positions. Connor Watson can do that and can do that really well. The fact that there was even talk of Pappenhausen being a utility is a joke. And I think it's absolutely disgusting.
And that will be our talking point when we get to number 18.
That's right. Yeah. We've got a bit to talk about that. Spencer Leniu, Hudson Young, Max King.
I love Leniu.
Yep.
I reckon he was great starting. And then as soon as he started, they subbed him off. I reckon off the bench, he's still good. I reckon, like you were saying with Barnett, he probably is a better bench player. I reckon Liu is a better starting. And would he go? No, you said Stefano will go in for Haas, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so no matter what, Liu will probably stay on the bench.
Then you'll stay on the bench. Yeah,
Okay,
I think his role will stay on the bench. Hudson Young's had an incredible year.
He's so good.
Incredible year.
He's incredible.
So it's a no-brainer for him to be in that side, to be back in the Origin talk again, which is really good.
I wouldn't be surprised if he starts in either game 2 or 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him to go down that direction. And Max King, as we discussed off the bench, it's a great story behind him.
Yes.
I love the story behind him. I love everything that he's kind of gone through to get to where he is and to be in Origin. It's a big shock, but
God bless him. He's
a
Christian brother.
Yeah, he's one of us. Yeah, he's mad. And then the rest of the bench is Campbell Graham, Stefano Toikamanu, and Hamali Olakawatu. Right. But I want to talk about 18th man.
Please.
18th man, this is the part, like, similar to Connor Watson. It has to be a player who can play multiple positions. Campbell Graham looks like a grandfather. He's come back from injury and he has not looked the same.
And what does he play?
Center. If he can do a job. I know he was there because Crichton was a little bit iffy. He's been playing the last few weeks with a quad injury, but your 18th man has to cover multiple positions.
Why wouldn't you put, like you were telling me before, the likes of Burden or even Walker?
Yes,
like
the two people I was going to say.
They can play center. They can play 6. They can. What else can they? They can play a lot of positions.
Yeah, they can play 13. Both of them can play 13. I believe Burden could play 13.
It's not like what happened a few years ago where we had Damien Cook playing number 4.
That's right.
What was that all about?
That's right. Having the two hookers was stupid. So the problem I have here is if something was to go down to one of our players and then chuck Campbell Graham in there, it ruins everything. Laurie Daly's a dope. I'm sorry. The guy's an idiot. How would you put him in there? I would have chucked in like you said, Matt Burden, and then between him and Dylan Walker, I would have chucked in as the 18th man because there's no one else you put that can cover multiple positions that play for New South Wales very, very well.
And you need him to cover the position well enough so it doesn't disturb the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Like what we spoke about Damien Cook, it disturbed the rest of the team. There were so many holes in the team.
Yep.
You don't need him to be a superstar in that position. You need him just to be good enough so the other team players in those positions can do their job.
That's right. That's right. And if you're coming in as 18th man, you have to cover more than one position.
Yeah.
And Campbell Graham is an odd choice. A very odd choice. If you're going to put a center out, then put Tony Staggs.
Is he even in the top 10 of centers this year?
No.
Is he even in the top 20? Probably not.
Genuinely, probably not.
Like, he's coming back from injury. I know. Like, I wish him the best, but there's other centers out there.
There's so many other centers that are better than him at the moment. Yeah, that's the reality of how things are. But that's why I think Laurie Daly has been the wrong option as coach for New South Wales. The only good thing he's done so far is he's going to get Michael Maguire to join the camp.
Okay.
For the next few days, which will give you, because he wants to know how he beat Slater. He wants to know how he did it last year. So I think it's a great move to get him in, to pick his brain and to see what he actually did to get him in there. So, well, look, all in all, it's a decent team, but Terrell may missing out. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. In every category, he has absolutely killed it. He's become a massive loss for the Roosters in terms of, a good forward.
As a Roosters supporter, I back the Roosters. You know what? If he's not buying into the culture and the players and the coaches, they're not feeling it.
Well, the thing was they re-signed him. Well, the thing is they signed him beginning of the year on a 2-year extension, and then
no one knows what happened, right?
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I back him. Like, I don't know what he's done. He's amazing. I don't know what he's done, but I back him.
Yeah, but for me, okay, that's fair. But in Origin, it makes no sense.
No, makes zero sense.
He should be in that squad. If him and Haas as a 1-2 punch would be exceptional.
Are they using this whole... because I saw what he done on social media. I didn't think it was that bad. He apologized. Are they using that as a cop-out?
No.
It's a cop-out, isn't it?
Look, that could have been the easiest way. And I think part of me is that they use the 64-0 loss as a cop-out too. Saying he's got defensive deficiencies. But the problem I have is that when you're in contention for Origin and you miss out, you get a call from the coach saying, hey, listen, you're not selected, but you keep your form and do this. Daly didn't contact him, isn't willing to contact him.
Do you think that this has anything to do with whatever problem the Roosters had? Which could be like he overheard. Because in a normal workforce, people talk. If you're good in your position, but there's something about you, like a bad trait, a red flag, it gets around. Well, do you think it went around and Laurie Daly just knows in the background this was happening at the Roosters and he knows something about him, just maybe his personality or some character trait he has, and he goes, I don't want that in the New South Wales Origin team. Do you think that is a possibility?
I think that is the reason.
You think that's the reason?
Yeah, because there's a rumor that him and another player at the Roosters, there were like some rumor about him cheating and like getting with his missus or something like that.
He does not want that in the camp.
And they probably don't want that or those two players in the same camp because they're not going to get along. So that could be, that's the perspective that I understand of it.
Yeah.
Not going to sit here and name names because I'll probably get in trouble, but
we don't know.
It's pretty evident as well who they are based off recent.
Because there's only a few Roosters players in the team.
That's right. Yeah. So you guys can have your laugh with that. But for me to miss out is very costly. I think he would have done a phenomenal job. But we talked earlier about Haas. If he gets through his injury and he plays, he's another player that has to step up too because he gets munched in Origin week in, week out.
Yeah, that could be a mentality thing because you see a lot of athletes, not just NRL players, they buckle under pressure. And there is so much pressure when it comes to Origin. But Payne Haas has played in pressure. He's played in he's played in a grand final.
Played grand final, played for Australia.
Yeah.
That international has done it all. It's kind of same as Cleary.
Maybe speaks of how much higher and how much harder Origin is.
It's the pinnacle of rugby league.
Yeah. Even compared to the grand final, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game, bro. Because it's the best of the best in that.
And that's when you see the likes of Nathan Cleary. I'm not saying he's played bad in Origin, but he hasn't been like he has been in Penrith and in Australia. And that speaks about, well, if Mitch Moses did it,
you think Cleary can do it.
Yeah.
And he should be able to do it. That's of the opinion that I'm under. But enough on the New South Wales side. Let's go to the Queensland side.
I love every year. I love the Queensland side.
A lot of the
Call
time
me
they
a
get
traitor,
it right.
but I love the
a lot of the time
Queensland
they get it right. To be honest,
I love Billy Slater, don't I?
Yeah, he's a machine. But look, fullback Kalen Ponga.
I love it. I'd much rather him than Walsh, and I can't see like they got what like 2-3 fullbacks here. Like Hammer and Holmes can play fullback. And they're playing him in the center and the wing. Like that just speaks volumes about the depth in this Queensland team.
Yeah. They got their depth is incredible. It's fantastic depth. But I think in this situation, I think they had no choice to go with anyone else but Ponga.
It's not a bad choice. Like he's doing well at the Knights, even though the Knights are rubbish.
Yeah, but he's not doing well, to be honest.
He's doing not better than everyone else.
He's being overlooked in the attack.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. They're making him like the decoy runner.
Yeah,
it's like, mate, he's the one you should be getting the ball the most.
And supporters like Joseph, they hate the fact that Ponga plays so well for Queensland.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Knights, he's off and on.
Yeah, well, that's fair. But that's to do with the coaching of the Knights and the players they've got there. Yeah. But that's a whole other topic for another time. But the rest of the backs, the wingers are Coates and Holmes. The centers are Toya and Tabuai Fido. And the halves are Munster, Cherry Evans. So I know that Taulangi was injured, which is why Coates is there. Coates
is great. He's doing so good. And he's always done well for Queensland. He's always done well for Melbourne and Brisbane.
Yeah.
Coates is fantastic. Valentine Holmes, he's brilliant.
Yeah, and he can get it done on the wing. He's shown it before, which I don't hate that. And I think he's been pretty sound for the Dragons this year.
Yeah, he's been really good. Toya, like 10 games in, is 19 years old.
Quite the rap, isn't it?
That's amazing. I'm loving this.
Slater's obsessed with him.
Like, I'll be upset if they tear us and they score a lot on us and they win. But if Toya does amazing, I can't help but be happy for him.
It's true. Yeah, no, 100%. About 10 games into your career, and he kind of backs the thing that's being said. If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your age. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Slater sees a lot that a lot of us might not see. But Toya's, bro, he's coming up against Latrell in form. Latrell will munch him. In any sort of conversation or word that you think of it, Latrell's currently on a media ban. You know what I mean? Not talking to anyone.
Yeah.
He's doing his thing. He's in the zone. I feel like he's really in the zone right now. And when you just talk about it and you think of Latrell and you think of Toya, you think Toya's going to get absolutely munched.
Yeah, and you look at when 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds play Origin, some of them never recover. They have like a really bad game. And they might even be that young. Some of them might just debut even a bit older, but still young. And they never recover from that. And but then I think about it, I don't know many Queenslanders that have done that.
Well,
a lot of them are New South Wales.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And like the one time that there was a really bad player for Queensland was Justin Hodges. His first game, he dropped he made 4 crucial errors.
Yes.
And then he got picked again the next game. And he was
amazing.
like, what the heck? Like, I shouldn't be here. But he killed it. He showed what he was about and he got with it. But look, I like the backs. I thought Cobbo was actually going to get a run in this year. So I was a bit surprised that Cobbo didn't.
Was he also battling an injury?
Nah, he's actually been pretty fit, Cobbo, to be honest with you. He's come in and he's covered for Walsh at fullback for Brisbane. He's done a pretty sound job there as well.
Because when I was listening to Billy Slater, he goes, other than form, and even though he said his form is great, he goes, we're also concerned about an injury. So that sort of done the job for us. It was just easy to consider. In this case, it was Coates and Holmes. But you're saying that, I mean, it could be the injury at first, but then...
Yeah, there's a bit of rumours about how he doesn't get along with Slater and all that rubbish. But
do you think so? Because he's a young kid. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, being young, having a bit of an ego, you know, people blowing smoke up your backside thinking you're that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just didn't... When I look at Cobbo, I don't really get that whole ego thing from him, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And then we talk about the centers and Toya, and Hammer at center is also a no-brainer.
Brilliant.
I mean, can't go wrong there. The halves of Munster and Cherry Evans is an absolute lock-in.
Yep.
We don't need to say much else.
No.
Forward pack of Fodawaker and Tenofa Asuma Leawi with Harry Grant at hooker. Can't go wrong.
Get better.
Yeah, good to see Tino playing really good. He's playing really good football. I can't stand him at times, but mate, he's playing.
I'm so happy he's doing so well, and he's doing so well at the Titans.
Yeah.
Usually people go there and retire, switch off. He is brilliant.
Yeah, he's killing it there. He's doing really, really well. And then your back row of Cotter, Nanai, and Carrigan. I think Gilbert would have been there for Cotter, to be honest.
A lot of people saying Cotter was a one-season wonder.
Yeah, a lot of people saying that. A lot of people aren't really understanding the hype with Cotter. I know he's a hard worker.
I think he'll do a good job. Yeah.
I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I think our forwards will, if they are on song, will munch him.
But
if Haas misses out and Uto Kamano comes in, we're stuffed. I'm telling you, we're stuffed. It's not going to happen.
You don't think Stefano would do a good job? Or he's just too young,
to be honest,
too fresh?
Stefano hasn't really made much of an impact at Storm.
Yeah, that's true.
So for me, it's like, well, he hasn't really proven or done anything crazy and out of the ordinary.
Why is he there? Well, he was there last year as 18th.
Yeah, he was there last year's 18th man. Oh no, he missed out. No, he missed out 2 of the games last year, which is why he got the release to go to Storm. So he missed out on camp most of the camp altogether. But they've got big raps on him and what he can bring. The bench, Dearden at 14 is a no-brainer as well.
Yeah.
I think Dearden wouldn't be there if Hunt was fit.
Yes.
To be honest, I think Hunt would be there, but because he's injured as well, they had to take him out, all things considered.
Yep.
Collins, it's a bit of a risky one, I'll be honest, Lindsay Collins, because he's been injured most of the year.
He's been really good, that's the thing.
Yeah, he's been decent.
And he usually starts.
Yeah, he does. So I think that's a bit of a questionable one as well. I'm just not sure about that. Bo Firma.
Amazing.
Mate, he deserves it. He's played some really good footy. He's been unreal. He's keeping Fafita away from his preferred position.
Yes.
So that's huge for me.
That's great. Like, I don't want to talk too much about Fafita, but when on earth did that become his preferred position?
I'm guessing he might have just woken up and said, I want to play there. But he has played there in the past. But you can't ignore what Firma's been doing at second row for the Gold Coast Titans. As poor as they've been, he's actually stepped up. He's like Tino has kind of carried that forward pack.
Yes, good on him.
And Trent Loiero, which I think he's just there for the aggression side, and he's just there to put it a bit of mongrel.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's there probably to get into the heads of the New South Wales players.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That's how kind of I've been seeing it. And then you've got, Kurt Mann, 18th man, Arthur's 19th, and Kuli.
That's what 18th man should look like.
Yes. They've got it right, Queensland.
Yeah.
Guy that can play a couple of positions, get it done well.
And they got it right. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where he had, was it Cobbo on the wing? In the bench.
Yeah.
And then there was an injury and they put Cobbo straight in.
Yeah. Because you could cover those 1 or 2 positions that are key. So having a Kurt Mann in there would cover you at 6, 13, at worst case 9, could even play centre. They got it right there. And then Arthur's is a bit... That's fine. He's had a decent year.
Yeah,
and Fili Furiaki is just there for potential of what he could be in the next few years.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind there. But how do you see it? Do New South Wales get the first game at Suncorp?
I mean, I can't go against them.
Yep.
I'm going New South Wales. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I do think it'll be close. I think it'll be probably too close.
Yeah.
I reckon this Queensland team is a good team. I think it's the best team they could pick. Not like when you look at New South Wales, you'd be like, oh, you could have put the Desco, you could have put May, you could have put Shumakan. No, when you look at this, you're like, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's fair. And I kind of see that as well. I think Blues can get the job done.
Yeah.
Just depending on, the fitness of Haas and how well they can use Crichton and everyone else. But it's going to be a great Origin series.
Yes.
Well, Goose, thank you for jumping on. Appreciate you jumping on. Thank you so much for tuning in to a new episode of League Chat with the Stat. Appreciate your feedback in relation to the short form content that's been released so far, which will be continuing as the weeks and the months come on. But yeah, subscribe to Have a Chat Productions, subscribe to the channel, continue to leave comments, give us your feedback, anything we need to include in our episodes, anything we need to include in our short form content, what you guys want more of, what you want less of, please let me know. And we'll look to wrap this up. So thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a good one. Enjoy Origin, go the Blues, and go the Dogs. Enjoy.